There we go, that should be alright. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our weekly podcast. It's week number 3 of our RSF1 season, and we are reviewing the races that happened in the previous week of Vietnam. And not many people were looking forward to this race, me included, but they proved very intriguing results. Mostly about strategy, and there was a few safety cars in there. There was even a sprinkling of rain at one point. But yeah, they were definitely intriguing races, and we are here to recap them all, as well as we've got a couple of interviews to talk about, a few mentions as well, and if we have time at the end of this show, we will have a look at China, or my attempt to not corner cut as much at China, but we'll see if we have enough time. I'm RSF1 Michael, also known as Brundle. And I'm joined, unfortunately I'm not joined by Hippo today. He's away busy, etc. But I do have Monster Skyline back. So, hi, you missed last week, but you're back. So, hi.
Hi. Hello, Dave.
Hi. You did include your audio, didn't you?
No, of course not. Why would I do that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay, so recap in general Vietnam. As I said, not many people were looking forward to this track. It's a very difficult, challenging track. Yes. So, but obviously we're not going to try and be too negative about this track. Obviously we both had difficult races ourselves, so again, trying to be positive about this week is be very difficult. But there were definitely some interesting results, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. It's good to see some drivers overperforming sometimes, I guess you could say, or having a drive of their life, I guess, as well. So it's always nice to see different people bringing out the best in themselves, I guess.
Yes, of course. And there was some interesting terms in the championship as well. A few cases where championship leaders coming into this race didn't have a good result, so did shake up a few things. We also had a few debutants in the comms box, didn't we, Ryan? Including yourself on the. You commentated on F5 for the first time, I believe.
No, I did F5 last season for a little bit. I think it was round 1 Australia. I think I did F5.
It's your slot now, is what I mean.
Yes, I miss F1, but I think with F5, with it being an easier tier to get along with, I guess, in a way, I can throw a few jokes around and people won't get too irritated at them, so probably get away with a little bit more.
You also had a debutant in the comms box, TSRC Rogue, as well. How did you think he got on in terms of his first time?
We had a bit of a laugh. Some people obviously won't like it because we're not taking it serious enough, but we did try to be serious as well as jokey, but he did very well, and he managed to get along with the laugh quite well, to be fair, because some people just get a bit irritated, but he took it well, to be fair, took it like a champ.
Yeah, there were a few little back and forth jokes between you two, which was good to hear, as well as being informative. You kept us on our toes to see what was going on, so that was always good to hear. We actually have 2 people we are interviewing tonight, both from F5, Ryan, so got a little treat for you, because obviously you're now commentating on this tier.
Doesn't mean I remember what happened, though.
Okay, I'll jog your memory, I think. Just pause that for a little second as I'll get them in. Of course, I don't have them on the streaming account, so I'm going to have to freaking find them. Preparation is key in this show. Organisation is key in this show.
I thought you would be a bit more organised than this, Michael. Gosh.
Yeah, I didn't add them onto my onto the friends list. Right, there's one. There's one. Okay, and then is it? Helps that they both got RSF1 in their name.
That's true.
There we go. And invite to party. There we go. Sweet. And hopefully he joins on cue. Yeah, he does. Woo. Woo! Right, tick your the box. Include your audio, please, gentlemen.
That is done.
Sorted.
And right, and we'll take us underway. Ryan, do you want to ask the questions for Mr. RSF1 Lincoln and RSF1 Source?
I have one question I'm a little bit intrigued about. I mentioned it to you before we started, Michael, but we'll start with Source first, then we'll go to Lincoln. Obviously, F5 last season was really between only like 3 or 4 drivers. But how do you both feel now? The tier is pretty much anyone's to take. How do you feel with it being a lot closer?
For me, I feel like, last season I joined, I think just before halfway through, maybe. So yeah, it was obviously Jesse and Scotsman pretty much had a massive run on everyone else anyway. But yeah, no, this season I feel a lot more comfortable racing, and last season I think I was just getting more into the flow of like racing every week because I barely played the game until I joined the league. So yeah, I'm just happy that I'm being more consistent in races, and because I was good in qualifying, but then I used to crash out quite a lot. So I'm just glad, apart from Australia, which we won't talk about for certain reasons. Yeah, no, I feel like I've been a lot more consistent and managed to grab a lot of points.
Okay, good. What about yourself, Lincoln?
Yeah, I think it's got a bit closer. I think there's some tracks what I love that I'm hoping I can get my first win. Because last season there was a few guys that I just knew I'd be lucky to get second or third. But this season, testing the next few tracks, I'm hoping for a win.
I look forward to that because I'm not sure if you both heard, but I'm doing F5 more regularly, so I'll be keeping a close eye on you both.
I think I heard you say it in the stream.
I think I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch the stream whilst I'm racing anyway, so I probably shouldn't. But I mean, I guess this is what you mean by like we don't take it as serious as most leagues, but.
Yeah, Tier 5 is just a bit of a banter division, really, because a lot of people realise that they're not the most competitive people on the game, but you still get together and enjoy a good laugh and a good couple of hours together racing.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm sure both of these guys want to beat certain people.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
I definitely want to beat at least 2 people. We all know who they are.
Oh,
Yeah.
Call them out. Go on. Let's get a bit of
Invade and Andy.
Oh.
Oh.
Are they the two that you're looking at as the potential kind of quote unquote threats, I guess?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
if you beat them, you probably won the race.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he's second reserve at the moment. I don't know if he's got a full-time seat yet or not, but I feel like
not at time of this recording, no.
Yeah, no, I feel like it won't be long. To be honest, until he does. But it'd be very interesting when he does, because he's not getting points at the moment, but he's still getting points to prove that he's one of the quickest in the league, and he could be up there if he was a full-time driver.
Okay, I have another question for you both then. How are you feeling with your teams, like your teammates, your team owners? How's the relationships getting on there with potentially meeting new people? How's that all going for you both?
I'll let Lincoln go first.
Oh, it's mate. Yeah, it seems alright. I think not got a bad team, mate. We can get some decent double podiums at least.
I've only just realised you two are teammates. Oh,
Oh yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, we tend to go in a party during the races. So if, like, say in Bahrain, he needs to overtake me, so we're trying to figure out where was the best place to overtake. And then in Vietnam, was thinking the same, where was the best for him to let me pass there. So, yeah.
What about your team owner?
Our team owner, we hate him, but he'll do it.
Yay! Yeah, I was going to ask. He was my principal last season, and yeah.
Enough said.
It's not just me. It's not just me that hates him. Good. There's more. Let's have more of this. Let's start the whole.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah,
I'm
no,
dying here.
For me, I feel like last season I ended up being in Mercedes and having a partner in Kabuki. Apart from one of the races where Kabuki made me spin because he missed his picking point, but he apologized straight away and it's fine. We never talked in like parties like me and Lincoln do now, but it was good having him as a teammate, and obviously now moving to Racing Point, happy I'm still keeping a Mercedes engine, and obviously now that I'm talking with Lincoln in parties and everything, I just feel more comfortable racing and just having more fun.
You got anything you want to add, Michael, or you?
Obviously try not to say anything about the race, because obviously recap on that. I don't want to give away any spoilers, I guess, to anybody that missed the race. This is how they recap and everything else. Obviously season's gone pretty respectable so far if I look at the my results at the moment between you two. Considering only obviously race 3 going into race 4, so tons of races to go. Looks like you're both going to be in and around the top, I would guess. I guess I think the question would be is where do you think you guys are going to end up? Instructors and drivers. Start off with Lincoln first.
Ooh. Say, depends if the driver lineup stays the same, if anyone gets moved around. But if it stays the same, I'd say constructor we can get 2nd or 3rd. And drivers' championship, if I can try and be consistent, I'm hoping to get probably 4th, I would say. Obviously, all depends on if anyone gets moved up or out.
Obviously, it's not my call on it, but if my personal opinion, I don't think anyone will. Personally, I think it's too close, to be honest. I think some would say like there's people that we could point out that, as you say, Andy and Invade if he gets a seat, and obviously you've got Tacticals up there as well. They could be consistently in the front, but they're not running away with races.
Some of it, I think, depends on practice. The more you practice, the more quicker you're going to get.
Yeah. What about you, Sauce? I have to say, there's been a couple of times already this season where you arguably could have won the race. Sorry to mention Australia again. But
Damn it!
But no. What I've seen already, in fact, from the pair of you, is that you are going to win a race this season at some point. Don't know when it will be. Could be this week coming up, China. Could be not in another 10 weeks. But I do think at one point you're going to win a race at this point. Yeah, but what about you, Sauce? Where do you see yourself at the end? What are you aiming for personally?
For drivers, I'm kind of aiming for top 5, and I did terribly last season. I think I only got 2 points in 2 races. I think I got like 7 or 8 points altogether. But that's because I crashed out quite a lot. Obviously, I've got a lot of points as well as Lincoln this season. So I'm aiming for top 5. I'm going to do my best to fight against Andy. I feel like me and him's got a little rivalry started from Australia with Q2 doing the qualifying. Because I was top and then he set a lap, and then my last lap I beat him by like another 2/10, and then he put in the chat saying, "Are you joking?" I've been like obviously laughing and that. So yeah, I'm gonna try and fight with Andy as much as possible, but I'm aiming for top 5 for myself and for me and Lincoln as a team. I think we could possibly get first if we keep being consistent, because I feel like there's a few tracks coming up that Lincoln's good at and I'm not too bad at, but more towards the end of the season I'm better at a lot of the tracks than I am to start like at the start of the season and working through. So I feel like we'd be top 3 drivers, and yeah.
Sounds pretty good. One quick final question before I let you get on with it. With your, I believe you have a league race somewhere as well in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So
Lincoln does.
One quick final question. Source first. What's the one track you're looking forward to, unless we've already had it this season?
Abu Dhabi.
Ooh.
Jeez, that's a long way to go.
Yes.
That's an interesting choice, though. I don't hear many people say that.
No.
I know. I've said it before, and I've had a lot of mixed feelings about it. But I feel like Abu Dhabi is one of my best and one of my favourite tracks to race.
Hmm.
I mean, I got
you?
my best finish in Abu Dhabi last season. So.
Yeah, I remember that. What about you, Lincoln?
I reckon Austria. It's always been my favourite track every F1 season. Probably practiced it the most in any other track.
Okay.
You know,
Tough
before
track to
Lincoln
win because
goes,
of how close it is.
I just love the flow of the circuit. It's just fast.
Go on, Ryan.
I've got one big question for Lincoln before you go.
Yeah.
Do you miss Sean Raggett?
Not really.
I was
Not really,
wondering
mate.
when this came up.
We've got a guy called Lewis Montsman.
Oh, I know you do. I know. I live in Lincoln as well, mate. Don't you worry. I know who you are. I used to work there. Don't worry.
Oh God.
I work for a football team,
Who do you work for?
Bristol City.
Yeah.
No,
Sauce.
mate, we just sacked our manager. Yeah.
Source, isn't it adorable when two people that support the same football club join together and start talking?
Michael, shut your
Adorable.
mouth, right?
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
knocked
but I
out
mean-
by us in the FA Cup, mate, when we was a non-league team. What are you talking about?
All right.
It's nice, but not when it's Lincoln.
Not start that. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Lincoln and Source, and good luck for the rest of your season. The two Racing Point drivers of F5.
Good luck with the
Obviously,
rest of
if you want-
your seasons as well.
And obviously, if
thank
you
you.
want to catch these two in action, then watch them on Tuesdays.
Yep.
Yes, Tuesdays.
Tuesdays, yeah.
I got confused at the start of the season. I thought it was Wednesdays. I thought it got moved to Wednesdays, and then Lincoln was like, "Nah, mate, it's Tuesdays." I'm like, "Oh." Right.
There's the plug. If you want to watch these two drivers in action, then watch them at Tuesdays every 8 o'clock. Every Tuesday 8 o'clock. I'm messing up the plug. Oh boy. Yes. Enjoy the rest of your season and good luck to you.
Here's you too.
And you. Bye bye.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was wondering how long it would take for you to discover. Oh, he's called Lincoln. He's got a Lincoln badge on his profile.
I just never had a
He
chance
must
to talk to
support
him.
Lincoln FC.
It's the first time I've ever talked
Wait,
to
you
him. I
have
think.
or you haven't?
I haven't. I think that's the first time I've ever
Oh.
talked to him, so... I had to ask him. I'm sorry, I had to.
Yeah. Howdy to Grady Vinny in the chat. We've got 9 people watching at the moment, but that's perfectly fine because I know more people watch this later on when it's uploaded. So, howdy to you, Vinny. Obviously, F4 driving Red Bull. Yeah, that was fun. They sound good, don't they? It's lovely to hear like.
I think you're biased, though. I'm not gonna lie. You invited 2 people from the same team. There's some bias there, Michael. Come on.
No, because I pinged. To be fair, in my defence, right, I pinged Ferrari because it was meant to be Ferrari's turn. Nobody in Ferrari said to me, "I'll take it." So I was like, "Okay, I pinged Racing Point," and them two like, "Yeah." So it's whoever messages me when I ping the team in the Discord.
It's not acceptable, Michael. Bias towards the Racing Points.
If it gets to Alfa Romeo, it could be you. So
Oh no, I don't want that.
might be. Depends. Yeah, so, by the way, for those interested, the background footage is just me doing time trials, sometimes terribly. In, officially, the winning constructor of, not in points, but the team that won the most races, Ferrari. I guess spoilers. Because they won 2 races, compared to others that won 1. So, that's why it was a Ferrari. Ladder. Quick few things to mention before we get going. This is really to do with comms, to be honest. And obviously this is to say a thank you to Raikkonen, Craig, Sinkside and Rogue. Raikkonen and Craig, obviously they've commentated before, but I guess they both haven't for a while, although we know Raikkonen has, I guess. But, it showed when he did F4 he's lost none of his touch, I guess. Craig as well. Craig is becoming a full-time streamer. Race. What race is after China? S04, isn't it? Netherlands.
Yeah, Netherlands, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for this week in China, I'm streaming because it's his birthday on China. So happy birthday to you, Craig Senna, when you listen to this on the Monday. But he'll be back on Zanfor, and he'll be full-time streamer along with Vettel. Just frees me up more, basically. Hope everybody's fine with that. And obviously we had Sync and Rogue, and I think both of them did really well in their first time in commentary, so good to hear that they're settled in and they should be good moving forward. And then obviously a slight thing about myself, I've taken a step back from racing this season. I'm doing something different now on Sundays. I won't go into that, but yes, you know, I had a little bit not been having fun with this game in terms of racing it. I still love commentating and analysing it, so I'm still here doing that, so on. In terms of racing, you're not going to no longer see me in F2 this season anyway, so let's get that out of the way. Well, let's get started. Let's get started, shall we? The F2 race to begin the week on Sunday. And Hippo analysed it for me. Of course, he's not here, but he did send me a quick sort of review of it as we get underway. And as I find it, before we went live, Ryan, you were going to ask me about the AlphaTauri.
Yeah,
in real life.
I wanted to just get a bit of your feeling towards the delivery, because obviously it's the same colour scheme, but it's also very different. So I just want to know whether you like this one more, or whether you prefer the other one more.
Let's be honest, it's similar to last season, isn't it? I know they've made like differences to it. Like I've heard of people, like some people like it, some people don't. I feel like if you didn't like it, or yeah, if you didn't like last year's, you're not really gonna like this year's, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, I'm kind of biased because it's two of my favorite colours, blue and white. So, yeah, I guess. I'm just thankful they've done. Let's face it, they've done more than McLaren did when they released their car.
McLaren has got big differences
not...
as well, but you have to look at the finer detail on McLaren, whereas the AlphaTauri, you can just look at it and just, like, you can tell that, this year's car compared to last year's car, like, last year almost just looks like they just splattered a Red Bull sticker on it and be like, yes, that will do. But this year, they've actually put some effort into, you know, making a bit of it's almost like a tribal design now.
Mm.
And it does look quite nice. I think if any of the last year's cars like look too similar to this year, I honestly think the AlphaTauri will be the best looking car on the grid, and maybe with the exception of Aston Martin, depending on what they do. But yeah, it's definitely a really nice looking car. Looking forward to getting into that when the new game comes out in July.
Rumoured July. Not officially announced yet, July.
No, but they want it to get released the first week of July. So even if it gets delayed, I can't see them delaying it until August. I think it'll come out at the end of July at the latest.
Yeah. Of course, be EA backed, I guess, or EA made, or so on.
It's just published by EA. It's still going to be Cody's making it. They've said that the next big influence that EA will have on the game is the 2022 game. So we're not going to see anything too different. It'd be interesting to see what they do with the servers, though. The server thing could be interesting.
So we're not paying any money for pit stops or fresh tyres until 2022. No, okay, good. We can start saving. Yeah,
£99 for a new set of tyres each race.
Was it £100 to drive the DLC Imola track or something, or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah. Hopefully they release that track as a base game track, because normally Cody's are really good at introducing new tracks into the game really quickly, like instantly when the game launches. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that with Imola, and also the changes at Catalunya. If you've heard about the changes of Catalunya.
Yeah, it's that turn 10, is it?
Yeah, you don't go left then left again into the right hander. You go the long sweeping left corner, like the outside line that's already there, but just resurfacing it, and then go to the right then.
Didn't MotoGP, whenever they race around Catalonia, is that the line they take? I'm pretty sure it is.
I think so. I don't know. I don't really follow
Motorbikes.
MotoGP.
Yeah, I don't really follow it that much, but the last time I remember they went on the wide line.
They also go around that thing instead of the chicane, don't they, for the final corner? Well, the penultimate corner, I guess you could say. Like they don't do the chicane; they go around the long route.
Which I so wish that we didn't have to do the finicky chicane, because I hate that. I still do. Yeah. Anyway, the AlphaTauri. Again, if you didn't like it last season, I don't think you're going to like it this season, because it's kind of similar, but they have changed it a little bit. Yeah, I kind of like it. It's in the end of the day, they weren't going to change, because they're more of a fashion brand as well, aren't they? Because so they're not going to completely like. I was surprised we're pink. They're not going to do that, are they?
No. But
that's another thing. No more
said,
pink.
Though, their engine contract runs out at the end of this year with Honda. So if they change engine supplier next season, we could see a new AlphaTauri livery next season, potentially.
Possibly. Speaking of pink, there'll be no more pink, because that used to be Racing Point, and I don't think they're going to stay pink, are they?
No, they've already shown Vettel in green colours, so I think we're going to see a green car. Which I'm looking forward to be fair. Like a British racing green.
Yeah.
Look, I think it won't... It'll be outdated for modern racing, but for those retro fans who like the old school colours will cream themselves over it, I guess.
The Jaguar, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the good old Jaguar days, yeah.
Maybe not as bright. Maybe not bright green, but...
Or if you remember the old Renaults in BTCC.
Oh,
with Alain Menu. There you go.
Yes. Right. Let's. I found the F2 review from Hippo, so I'm just gonna go through that. These race recaps are going to be a little bit more thinned down, or tried to be thinned down. Obviously, a lot happened, but obviously we're trying to thin these down a little bit because we don't want to go on too long. So let's start up with F2. That happened on the Sunday at Vietnam, so they were the first ones to kick off at this track. Top 10 in quali, just a quick rundown of that. It was myself, Josh S04, who I believe was still reserving. I believe he's still reserve driver. JS Lee, Dangerous Dan, Muddy Biscuit, Stygian, Magic Mark, Breezy, Lukey, and BF1 Racer. And pole was a 1:32.927, which was pretty quick, but it's one of those things, Ryan, which a lot of people said, like, if you're quick around here, you could be matching, like, tiers above you. So, like, if you're in tier 3, you could match, say, pole position in F1. Well, maybe not, but you can mix it in with F1, because, let's face it, if you like this track, you're going to be quick. It's like Monaco, isn't it?
It's also one of them tracks as well, though, where, because of it being introduced for this game, people haven't had time to practice it in the past. It's not something that, like, it's not a track that is on any other game either to get experience on. So it's a new track for everyone, and people obviously didn't adjust to it very well. People didn't like it or whatever, because obviously Zandvoort's a new track and isn't on many games. It's on some like a Assetto Corsa, but it's a more flowing track, whereas this one's more, I don't know, it's more stale, I guess, in a way, for some people at least.
Yeah. 1:32.927 was the pole, and the race got underway. Lap 1, there was carnage ensues with one spin. I believe this was, I cannot remember top of my head. He hasn't even written it down. That helps. So thank you, Hippo. But yeah, there was a spin that caused a bit of confusion at the back, I believe. Lap 2, though, there was a collision between One Shot, Little Sparks, and Storage, and all three of them had damage, so they pitted right at the end of lap 2, which wasn't good for them, but so they had to recover from that. Lap 5 and lap 6, Muddy, myself, and Dan got by Breezy. I believe Breezy had a little bit of damage from connecting in the wall in the last sector, so we all passed him before I decided to pit on lap 6, because I was going for the 2-stop starting on softs, going a double medium to the end because I thought that was the right strategy. Ended up not. But there you go. But what it did do is meant that lots of people like Muddy Biscuit, Dan, Jersley, and Josh pitted to try and cut me off under the strategy, which turned out to be the thing of the week, to be honest, in terms of strategy and what tyres to go on the 1 or the 2 stop. But of course, being the first race for F2, none of us really knew what to do instead of, soft, medium, or soft hards, to be honest. BF1 pitted at this point. He was leading the race with Lukey behind him, but Lukey decided to stay out a lap longer and managed to actually retain the lead ahead of BF1 racer. Milan then pitted on lap 11 because he was with the leaders, and that left Mexizu that actually got ahead of Lukey after he stopped, and BF1 racer. And then on lap 13 there was a interesting incident between BF1 racer and Mexizu. Let's just say they had an incident, and we'll leave it at that because there was a bit of a contentious controversy, I guess, with it. And obviously the stewards had their decision on that, but what it did mean is that BF1 racer had a bit of contact on his front wing and a bit of damage. Mexizu also lost a few positions, so that hampered both their races. Dangerous Dan then took the lead from Lukey into the hairpin, and in a long straight, which ended up being the overtaking place of the week, to be honest. Lap 17, I pitted again. I was in midfield at that point on my 2 stop, so I was at mediums to the end. Muddy Biscuit, though, had managed to take his tyres long enough to go onto the softs, which, again, proved to be a thing of reoccurrence over the week. Jersley overtakes Hudson for P3 on lap 19. He continued to sort of recover from his earlier on mishap. Dan then pitted for soft, same as Muddy Biscuit, and they were both trying to chase down Lukey, who was taking hards all the way to the end of the race. They ended up not catching him in the end. Lukey ended up winning the race, but Dan did pass Muddy for a P3 at the hairpin, and then passed J.S. Lee at the roundabout for second. Muddy also got by J.S. Lee for P3. And apart from that, that is all really the highlights of that race. There were no safety cars and no virtual safety cars in that race. So again, it was more tactical and overtakes at the right time. But the results was, and this of course is race director results, not streaming, because I don't have to stream the steward supports. Lukey picked up his first race win of the season. Second place was Dangerous Dan, picking up his first podium. Third for Muddy Biscuit in third place for him. So Muddy, Ryan, has not been off the podium. 2 wins and a third place so far this season. Muddy Biscuit, of course, was near the top end of F2 last season, narrowly missed out on the championship. But I think this season he's showing already he has the consistency and the race awareness, I guess you should say, to be out there for next season. I know it's still early days, but he's already showing it, isn't he?
Obviously, next season will be on a new game as well, so that'd be interesting, because obviously people do muddle up a little bit and people find pace, people lose pace, but definitely if he can do a good transition between games, like he could potentially get even quicker and win a higher tier. Keeps it up.
Yeah. Fourth place for J.S. Lee in the Alfa Romeo, his best result of the season so far. He's one of, I think, only 2 or 3 people that have been in the points in every race this season in F2, so good consistency from him so far. Hudson picked up his first result in 5th place of the Red Bulls, so good points for them. 6th was Mexizu, again his first result of the campaign. 7th was a reserve. I do not have that down, but unfortunately. But Breezy was 8th in the Renault. He obviously recovered quite respectively in the Renault after his first earlier pit stop, so ended up getting in 8th place. 9th was Milan, and I finished in 10th place. So, yay. So, but of course I'm not racing anymore, so that kind of point is meaningless, but there you go. But yeah, first win for Luke. Another one of those. You know, I believe you know Lukey a little bit, Ryan?
Yeah, I know him a little bit.
Yeah, quick driver. There seem to be certain tracks, and this is one of them, where he can seem almost untouchable. Funnily enough, actually, Singapore is another one that comes to mind. Seems to me like he's a street specialist, but he definitely has good pace everywhere else. Definitely could challenge, I'd say, the likes of, I think, early contenders, Muddy Biscuit, and who else am I putting up there? BF1 and JS Lee, I think, are the early contenders. Right, so that is tier 2. Definitely done. Hi to, is that Sparks, little Sparks in the chat, I believe. So, good evening to you. As we move on to F3, your tier that you raced on Monday, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't looking forward to this one, were you?
I like it more than Monaco, but that's probably about the only thing that's lower than that. But
Fair enough.
yeah,
Fair enough. So yeah, expectation wasn't really there, was it, for this one?
No, I didn't mind. Like when it came to that whole voting thing earlier on in the season, I wasn't really bothered whether it got took off or not. Like I was willing to accept whatever happened, basically. But yeah, things just weren't in my favour. Yeah, you want to mention it, but I made mistakes and a couple of times. So
You will get to that.
I ruined my own race anyway, so can't complain.
Yeah. Sparky FNCS. Is the league full? No, it's not full. We are always on the lookout for drivers as well as reserve drivers. So if you are interested in joining the league, we have, if you contact RSF1 Shane 0407, if someone in the chat could put that gamer tag in there for him, those that are watching, if you contact him, then he should get you sorted. Obviously, we will have to do a pace test and so on and so forth, and a connection test. Hopefully, we shall see you on the grid soon. So, RSF1 Shane, so that SHAINE 0407. So hopefully, that will be good for you. So, into tier 3 we go. So, is it safe to say in F3 currently? Obviously, we did have the two kind of not necessarily dominating, but always kind of up there near the top, being VRC Dan and Science. Now, obviously, first thing we must mention that VRC Dan has been promoted to F2 because obviously the league admins felt he needed the challenge of the higher tier. I think to be honest, Ryan, the right decision in the end. I mean, he'd got 2 poles out of 3 races and narrowly missed out on 3 poles out of 3. And obviously he I guess spoilers, won 3 race wins in a row. The right decision in the end?
I think after Australia, people were starting to question it, but obviously the league did the right thing of giving him time to see if it was like a fluke or whether it was just a good track for him and whether other people will catch him. But obviously he's proved a bit too powerful for F3, so it'd be interesting to see what he does in F2, and maybe next week we'll be talking about him picking up points there, very solid points hopefully.
I definitely think he can. Obviously, as of this moment, I don't believe he's been given a drive yet in F2. Also, the replacement in Ferrari has yet to be announced, but of course that'll be mentioned when it does. Yeah, the good thing about it is that he has accepted the challenge, Ryan, because I did speak to him afterwards, and I said you definitely deserve like the call up to F2 if you guess. I think he'll do bits, and I think he will do well, and he's looking forward to it, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's always nice to see some people willing to accept the challenge, because some people want to try and stay in a lower tier just to have like a championship, but if it's that easy of a championship to win, is it really a championship one at all? So it's nice to see that he's one of them people that is willing to move up.
Yeah, good stuff.
Sounds a bit of a dig
Yeah,
at
what
some
it
people,
does-
but I don't mean it as a dig.
No. What it does do, though, is obviously opens it up for Science, doesn't it? Because Science was there challenging him, and now almost people are kind of not expecting him to, again, take the reins, but
I think if
he
Science
opens it up
keeps
a
going
little
the
bit
way
for him.
he's going, I think Science will move as well, in all honesty. Like, I don't want to cause too many rumours or anything, or cause any
Nah.
issues. But if you look at his time from him to the next person, like ignoring obviously what Dan was doing, you know, I think he was about 4 or 5 tenths quicker than anyone else around Vietnam.
Sparky FNCS, the website that's just popped up on the chat there, if you go to that, that'd be the simplest way. Then you can go from there. If you go to that chat and then go to the website and follow the links on there. Yes, so VRC Dan is now in F2, so yeah, wish him all the best, and yeah, it should be fun to see what he can do in F2 on Sundays. Right, so F3, here we go. So the top 10 in F3. Science actually nicked the pole ahead of VRC Dan, I believe, by a couple of hundredths of a second. Cooper Benz in the Racing Point was third, was followed by his teammate Camo in fourth place. Shane was fifth in the Renault, followed by Quaker Oats. Falcon in the Williams was 7th, 8th was Ice the Best, 9th was Eagle, and 10th was Peachy Pig, and they all qualified on the soft tyres. Race got underway, and lap 1, unfortunately, Shane was into the wall exit of the roundabout. He was battling with Quaker Oats at the time, got a little bit of damage on his front wing, which means he pitted and went to the back. Ice the Best also got damage, as well as yourself, Ryan. Can I ask where you got that? Because I struggled to see where you did.
I got it going into turn 1. I tried to be cautious on the brakes, but it's one of them things where you try to be a bit too cautious. You brake early, realise that you broke early, lift off the brake, and then you hit the car in front of you. So, yeah, it was a mistake that I'm going to try and learn from and not do that again. But, yeah, a bit unfortunate. I'm sorry to the person I hit. It wasn't intentional.
Yeah, difficult though, wasn't it? I think you were 14th, I think. I remember rightly.
I can't remember. I know I bottled it.
I think you're 14th. Yeah, so Eyes and Skyline was also in the pits. So Shane, Eyes, and Skyline all in the pits on that one. Millsy, though, had a good start, your teammate. He was up 4 places from his grid position. Start of lap 2, the unfortunate Blazer Guns had a spin on through turn 2, the long right-hander. Again, he's one of those drivers in this league at the moment. I wish for him to have a good result, because it's really sad seeing the luck that he's getting. Yeah, I hope he has a good result in the next couple of weeks. Cooper Benz passed Danger Stand into turn 1 off the start, so he moved up into second place for the moment. Lap 3, Quirky Turtle collides with the wall. I actually caught that on stream because I was because I caught that he did a handbrake turn after he'd spun at the hairpin, and because he'd done it so quickly, it hit the wall and he retired on the spot. So that was interesting. That brought out the virtual safety car. Unfortunately, Peachy Pig and the Renault got a drive through from that for speeding under the VSC. And then once the VSC was away, VRC Dan got back into second place using the DRS ahead of Cooper Benz down to the hairpin. Lap 4, Quaker Oats passes Camo at the exit of the hairpin. Again, the hairpin proving a popular place. Stretch, who at this point was battling with Millsy for 10th place, both on hard tyres, crashed at the exit of the hairpin and pitted to 15th, but he kept going. And at this point, 5 laps in, Sainz was leading the race just ahead of Dangerous Dan and Cooper Benz. And then it was a bit of a couple of seconds gap to the battling Quaker Oats, Camo and Falcon in their sort of battle for 4th place. End of lap 6, Sainz pits on his 2-stop, similar to what I did on the Sunday, on for medium tyres, and Falcon did the same. End of lap 7, Quaker Oats pitted for mediums. Pretty much same on a similar strategy, just obviously a lap later. He just gets ahead of Falcon in their kind of battle for 4th place at the time. End of lap 8, Dan and Cooper Benz pits, but this was the key moment in the race because VRC Dan pitted for mediums, Cooper Benz the hard tyres. Going into this race, Ryan, obviously in F3, did you know at this point the strategy, obviously the choices that you had?
Yeah, I knew my choices. I didn't make the most of them, but I knew them.
This was a thing about this track, wasn't it? It was whether the 2-stop, soft, medium, medium, or soft to hards, wasn't it? And it was just a case of when you put on the hard tyres, it's whether you can handle them.
Well, the strategy I was initially going for was someone in the party when I was with my teammate and Shane and Diggles and the gang group, everyone was there. Someone said it is possible to start on the mediums and push your mediums and go to softs at the end, and I thought, you know what, I'll give that a go. So that was my idea. I did do a little bit of practice, and I was looking at the 2-stop over a 1-stop because I just don't like the hard tyres on a wheel. They always feel horrible to me, but personal opinion, I don't like them. But yeah, I always prefer 2-stop over touching the hards. I can't stand them.
Yes. Yeah, that was the difference with the 2 leaders. VRC Dan went for the 2-stop on the mediums, but Cooper Benz was going for the hard tyres from lap 8. Camo, in his battle with Falcon and Quaker at this point, also did the same thing as his teammate, pitted for the hard tyres versus Quaker and Falcon. In lap 11, VRC Dan passed Sainz for the lead at the hairpin once again. That's a simple DRS pass, and away he was into the lead. Lap 17 though, a little bit later on into the race, Quaker Oats with damage on his front wing gets passed by Falcon. So Quaker Oats was obviously trying to get his car to the pits, and unfortunately lost out in the battle that he was having. VRC Dan unfortunately lagged out at this point, and we very frantically got him back in, but by the time he did, he lost the advantage. He actually picked up at that point. I think it went from 5 seconds down to 2. So yeah, that wasn't the best, but we managed to get him back in, and he still retained the lead.
Camo went absolutely berserk
20...
over that as well, by the way. Camo went absolutely berserk. It's like, he's gone! He's out the session, he's gone!
How very nice of him.
Yeah, he's very sportsmanship, and he's got great sportsmanship, that lad. Absolute quality.
Oh, good to know. Lap 22, it became quite clear that VRC Dan was actually trying to get the mediums all the way to the end, because it was getting far beyond what you could get to the softs. So he was definitely trying to get his tyres to the end. We never knew, we never found out whether he could have made it, because at the end of that lap you had a mistake at turn 4, and actually ironically the car in the background is at this very corner. That's a simple loss of the car on the curbs, I gather.
Yeah, do I have to talk about this?
Just briefly.
Basically, I went down the long right-hander, overstayed a little bit on the exit, clipped the inside curb, bounced me into a wall. I kind of just took my hands off the wheel because I knew it was game over and my wheel fell off, so... Yeah, race over.
Yeah, so, again, sorry to bring it up, but obviously it was a key moment because it brought out the safety car, so...
I'm kind of glad in a way it did bring out a safety car, because it's always nice to have that reset when you're watching the stream. I know it's not ideal for me because I wasn't in it, but for fan entertainment, like you want like having a last 5-6 lap battle and shootout. I guess like it's interesting to watch. So
Did make it interesting. I'll give it that. Did make it interesting. So at this point, obviously, with the safety car, a lot of people changed their strategies. So it meant that the leading 10 was VRC Dan, who retained his lead ahead of Cooper Benz. Falcon, though, had used the safety car to good effect and then moved into a podium potential. He was up there in third place. Camo was in fourth, but he unfortunately had a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane when he made his stop. Eagle was in fifth. Sainz had actually safety car hampered in the most because he was down into sixth. Peachy Pig was seventh after his earlier mistake. He was up to seventh once again. Millsy was eighth. Shane was ninth after recovering quite nicely. And Quaker Oats was in 10th. They were all on the soft tyres. In fact, all the grid were on softs at this point. Unfortunately, though, Sainz and Peachy Pig's race actually curtailed at that point as the safety car restarted, or the race restarted under the safety car, because they collided in the last corner. Both spun and both pitted and ended up being the last two remaining cars on the track, which was unfortunate for them. And then the last thing to note was actually something I caught on the stream. I was on board with, I think it was Quaker Oats, looking back, and I just see a Renault go yeeting up on the inside on the hairpin, getting two cars, and that was actually Shane, who just, I don't think he meant to overtake a couple of cars there, but it was definitely great to watch. So if you want to see that, have a look at the F3 race, and it was at lap 25, I believe it is. You'll see me looking back from the hairpin, you just see a Renault go yeet straight up on the inside and actually got there with no contact. So great pass from Shane, and his recovery up the field actually didn't stop there, because he then got Eagle in the last sector to move up into a pretty impressive 4th place. And that's the second time in 2 weeks, because I think he did this in Bahrain. He did a soft run at the end of the race, Ryan, and again he finished 4th. So he doesn't give up, Shane, does he? He's a definite fighter when it comes to races.
Oh, you should do him in the party. It's a little bit different. Before I crashed, he turned around and said, "Oh, I don't know why I bother sometimes. I'm either going to get points." And he had
oh jeez.
He had an engineer with him. It was like, "Keep going, Shane. You never know. There might be a safety car." And literally about 10 seconds later, I binned it in the wall. I was like, "There you go, Shane. There's your safety car."
Didn't mean to give him a safety car. I might actually point that out.
No, I didn't mean to. I don't think you ever mean to give your rival a safety car, because he is technically a rival. I'm not a teammate of his, so. Of course, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it was a good race to watch. I commentated that on the Monday with Craig, and I think obviously I'm going to miss it after China, to be honest. But it is for the best. So all good. And I think Craig, obviously, when he settles in as a full-time streamer, I think he's got a very good tier, very competitive tier. Of course, we'll find out who is VRC Dan's replacement in Ferrari. And again, we obviously wish the best and all good for Dan when he competes in F2.
Make it sound like he's sick or something.
Yeah. Our thoughts are with him as he moves into F2. The dangerous time. No. Yeah, VRC Dan. At least he finished his last race in F3 on top, I guess. Guess you could say that. Because he won the race in the Ferrari. Picked up good points for them. That's another thing. Raikkonen's going to miss him in F3. Because he was picking up 3 wins in a row. Which is obviously good for Raikkonen as his constructors' points. Second was Cooper Benz in the Racing Point. He got second last week in Bahrain, but wasn't able to keep it because of a post penalty. But this time I believe he's able to keep this one. So that's good from him. Third was Falcon, picking up his first podium of the season. A result that his buddy RSF1 Vettel was very, very happy in the chat, I remember. Fourth, as I said, was Shane. So a good solid result for him. Fifth was Camo in the Racing Point. So he put his disappointment of Bahrain behind him. 6th was RSF1 Eagle in the Mercedes. 7th was Stretch in the other Mercedes, so good points for them. 8th was a reserve. I don't have that one once again. 9th was Eyes the Best in the Red Bull, and 10th was Millsy in the Alfa Romeo. So again, another guy. Obviously, he's your teammate, Ryan. Is Millsy? He's been in the points, albeit small points, but he's been in the points every race this season. He's a good, consistent driver. He done that in F4 last season, if I remember rightly. He was in the points pretty much every race. Do you reckon he's capable of doing that this season? It's going to be more tricky, of course.
It will be more tricky, but I do think making the jump from F4 to F3, he's definitely proved he can do it with some confidence about it, to be fair to him. So he deserves a lot of credit for making that jump and making it work.
Yeah, good stuff in F3 so far, and of course they will head to China next week. Now we're into F5, which happened on the Tuesday, and of course this is where yourself, Ryan, and Rogue commentated on a pretty eventful race. And again, this was all down to tactics and strategy, because I believe there was a safety car earlier on in the race as well. So overall, if you remember F3, how was it? F3, F5.
I do remember a little bit. Obviously, there was a lot to take in from that race. There was a lot going on all over, but there was periods where it looked like it was going to get quiet. But whenever it did look to get that way, we had obviously the safety car and people on different strategies, different tyres were catching other people quite quickly, and we'd never really had much of a dull moment. But obviously, me and my co-coms for that race, we worked well together, and when it did start to get a little bit dull, we made a few little jokes while we're waiting for a battle to resume.
And you mentioned how close and unpredictable F5 is. Well, 3 different winners in 3 races pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. The thing is with obviously Vietnam being in there is, even though there's some F5 drivers that are quick, it doesn't always mean they're going to be consistent around that sort of track or getting the luck with avoiding the rules, with the rules being so close. So it makes it interesting when different people win and you get to interview different people, get different characters in the comms box, I guess you can say.
So the top 10 in F5 in qualifying, Tacticals got the pole position ahead of Andy Yuskin in the Renault. So again, Ferrari were looking strong this week, with Tacticals in the lead from the qualifying. XG Mando, who was a reserve for this week in the Williams, had a good first impression. He ended up 3rd in qualifying. 4th was Daniel P45 in Red Bull, followed by Invade in the Ferrari. He's still a reserve, Invade. Obviously had that great race in Bahrain the week before. But he was in Ferrari this time. Still, again, like Mando, was doing a good first impression. Manure was next in the AlphaTauri, followed by Bradley Johnson in the Haas. Locken and McLaren, Source in the Racing Point, and Immortal in the Red Bull. But the key thing was Tacticals had actually qualified on the medium tyres. One of the few people that actually qualified into the top 10 on the mediums. Unfortunately, though, that was one of the main reasons that he lost the lead at the start, because Andy and Invade got by Tacticals on the first lap. Manure also had a good start. He was up to 4th place. Daniel, though, as well as Locker and Bradley, all pitted for damage in the opening phase. But a pretty clean start for F5, actually, on the first lap. Not too many comings together. Lap number 3, Tedist and Source connected on the exit of the hairpin. Look, kind of a weird incident. Do you remember this one? Ted and the Williams and Source and the Racing Point.
No, actually.
Yeah, they were side by side coming up the hairpin, and it looked like the cars just locked together. They both went into the wall on the exit. Looked a weird one. Again, don't think there was anything malicious in that, just unfortunate. X-Mando also on that lap passed Manure into 4th place. But then Manure went back past, so they were on a pretty interesting battle between them. Lap number 6, Immortal moves into 4th place as Mando passes Manure at the hairpin. So pretty good fight in the midfield, like 4th down to 7th at this point. Invade though was one of the first of the leaders to pit for hard tyres. Obviously he was going for that one-stop strategy on lap 7, and he came out in 5th place, so actually worked out pretty well for him. He wasn't in too much traffic. Lap 8, the other leaders decided to pit, but Andy decided to come in for medium tyres, going for that 2-stop. He came out in 3rd, and at this point he looked to be in complete control, but on that lap, halfway round, Kabuki in the Alfa Romeo made a mistake coming into the last sector, and that brought out the safety car. So as I mentioned in the race before in F3, great sort of equaliser, but obviously this time in the early part of the race rather than late. Unfortunately though, drive through for XG Mando because he sped under the pit lane. So under the restart, or after the restart, Lincoln then got Mando, because Mando obviously hadn't taken his drive through at this point, but he did at the end of that lap. And then there was a peculiar incident, which peculiar because I don't know how it happened, to be honest, between Orphan, Tedist and Tim at the hairpin. Again, I think you streaming it, Ryan, caught the end of it as well. They just, all three of them seemed to be pointing in different directions when you got to it, if you remember that one.
I do remember a little bit, yeah. Very confusing incident. Obviously, sometimes when you're streaming, you can't catch every second of every good bit, and obviously we're not Formula 1, we don't have replay cameras and that sort of thing, so it's a bit of a mystery to why some incidents do happen, and obviously we do miss them. It happens, unfortunately.
Unfortunate for Ted as well, because obviously he was championship leader actually coming into this race, and he had a race to forget because after that collision, and he decided to retire. Timmer and Orphan decided to carry on, but they were at the back of the field at this point. Mando also took his drive-through at this point, and that brought him out in, I believe, 8th place. But still running in the points, so still pretty good. Immortal, who hadn't pitted under the safety car, he was still on his medium tyres from the start, was now starting to struggle on them and was now 3rd, before Tacticals, who is on soft tyres at this point going aggressive, just went by him. Lap 15, because obviously Tacticals went aggressive, they had to pit again for another set of softs, and he was into 2nd, chasing down the leader, Andy Yuzgan, and invade his teammate. Lap 17, Bradley Johnson retires from the last sector, and that brought out the virtual safety car, which didn't really change much, but obviously it helped those that were on the hards trying to stave off the rest of the drivers. Lap 19, Mando, who was trying to recover from his drive-through, passes Shadow Moses for 7th place. Again, down at the hairpin. Lap 20, Andy and Tacticals pit, as does Lincoln, also up there with the leaders. Which left Invade, who was on the hards, to the end, as well as Manure. Both of them were leading at this point. Tacticals ended up coming out in 3rd, Andy Yuzgan in 5th. They were both on the softs, trying to chase down the two up front. Tacticals did manage to get past Force Manure at the hairpin for 2nd, but wasn't able to catch the leader in the end. Lap 27 though, he was caught himself by Andy Yuzgan, who was on a charge to try and get a better result himself. Managed to get himself into 2nd place, but they were not able to catch the eventual winner, FRT Invade, in the Ferrari. And I do hope this guy gets a drive soon, Ryan, because Invade, he's definitely showing that he has really good race pace. Qualifies well as well. I think whoever gets him is going to have a very solid drive in their hands.
I think you're missing one thing. Did you not? Did you miss the Andy Yuzkin hitting his front wing at the roundabout?
I didn't. Yeah, I missed that completely.
Yeah, I think it was about 10 laps to go, maybe less. When the Invade was catching him, he went wide at the roundabout and hit the wall, damaged his front end plate, and that's why he came in towards the end of the race, I believe.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I completely missed that.
Yeah, you see.
But yeah, Invade obviously had a good result in Bahrain. Qualified at the back and still got a podium, I believe. Or was it second? I think it was second as well. One obviously in Vietnam. Yeah, he's gonna be one to watch once he gets a full-time seat.
I mean, if he managed to do that and he's getting good results in Tier 5, maybe he could do a similar thing in Tier 4 as well, because obviously I don't think he's going off into the distance, but once he gets comfortable and settles being an F5 driver, maybe not this season, like you were saying earlier, but maybe next season, if he can do the transition to the new game well, you know, he could be an F4 driver, maybe even F3 or something like that, and obviously he's shown a lot of potential and given us a bit of a show of what he's capable of.
Mm. Yeah, in any case, he picked up the second win of the week for Ferrari, so Ferrari have scored pretty well this week. But second place went to Andy Yuzkin in the Renault. A lot of people tipped, including myself, that he was going to do some things. Obviously didn't have a result in Australia, but won in Bahrain from pole and second this time out, so definitely coming on strong is Andy. Let's hope he can keep it up. Third place for Tacticals in the other Ferrari, so Ferrari got a double podium in F5, and obviously Raikkonen, the team principal, was very happy with that. Fourth place for Lincoln in the Racing Point. Second, sixth and fourth so far, Ryan, for Lincoln. Consistency is that word, isn't it? You got to keep in the points, and if you keep in the points every race, you should be up there, shouldn't you?
Yeah, normally, like, finishing consistency in the points won't necessarily win you a championship, but it'll definitely work well for the constructors, and even the combined constructors, you know, they'll be looking at his results and rubbing their hands a little bit, I think.
Another team that actually did strongly in Vietnam was Racing Point, because Source ended up in 5th place behind his teammate. They also did it very well tactically, if I remember rightly, on the back straight. Lincoln obviously the faster tyres at that point, and Source decided to let them through. Yeah, shows that they have good chemistry in that team. 6th place again went to reserve driver. 7th was Hippo, another driver that scored points in every round this season so far, so he started off well. Papa Smurf in the Haas ended up in 8th place for him. 9th was Immortal in the Red Bull, picks up his first points of the season, and 10th was Force Manure, picks up his second point of the season because he got 10th last time out in Bahrain. Yeah, we mentioned earlier how close this tier is, and I still reckon it will be close. I'm with you. I think this is going to have many different race winners on it. It's just going to be down to who can, you know, have the best
Who can score the
combined
most
results,
points
I guess.
and they don't win. That'll be an
Yes.
important thing.
Yes. That's going to be key, isn't it? Because obviously we've seen Ted, obviously he'd had a good start, but he didn't race in Vietnam. I'd be keen to see how Ted is going to react, because he's one of those that I think on raw pace, I think is going to be up there qualifying wise. He's got to very quickly put Vietnam behind him, doesn't he?
Yeah, same with any track though. Whenever you have a bad race, you just got to be able to man up to yourself, I guess, and be like, right, I need to move on, because if you have in your head and you don't dwell in your head for a couple of weeks, you know, you're going to have a couple more bad results and it'll impact the rest of your season. And before you know it, it'll be too late to do anything about getting a decent championship standing. So he needs to move on quickly and continue back to winning form.
Pretty sure he will. Pretty sure he will. But obviously a completely different track next week in China, isn't it, Ryan? So we could see like the usual pace setters in pretty much every tier back to the front.
There's going to be some unusual results. I'm predicting that now. I think there'll be a couple of people that you'll be like, wow, how did they do that? So it'd be interesting because China, yes, has a couple of long straights that are just a bit too long, really, and a bit too easy to overtake at times. But the first sector and the middle sector are so good with the flow of the chicanes and tight corners as well. Obviously, you got the hairpin of turn 4, so that's so that'll throw up a few good overtaking opportunities as well as the DRS. So it'd be very interesting to see what people do.
Certainly.
And obviously rain as well.
Good.
Very high chance of rain at China.
Oh yes, and high tyre wear. So, or naturally high tyre wear. If I remember the last season or two. But yeah, good tier F5. They're doing some good races so far, aren't they? And obviously you're in there full time now, so enjoy.
I'm looking forward to it because I've not really paid much attention to F5 apart from that quick race review I did a couple of weeks ago when I was told last minute to do it, and commentating it this week. So now I can focus more on that tier. I'm definitely looking forward to it because obviously I think it's the closest tier we have, and it's the lowest tier. So that's
the most open. I think.
I think that will make it interesting to watch, and obviously with a little bit of banter at times as well between me and my co-com, but we'll see how that turns out.
Right, so moving on to the F1 division now. Spoilers, and obviously not to bring down the division because that's not my intention at all, but it wasn't exactly the most entertaining of races as it may come across in my race report, but there really wasn't much happening going on. Not to say it wasn't a bad race, because it was a good race. There just wasn't a lot happening, and that's what's going to sometimes happen in these reviews. God knows what we're going to do if we get to a week where nothing happens in every tier, but hey ho. But the tier 1, which obviously happened on the Wednesday night, the top 10 was Mitzi in the Red Bull, who got pole position ahead of the reigning champion RSF1 Eastern. Corey Marshall was 3rd ahead of Lando in P4. Nat Dog in the Ferrari carried on a solid week for the Maranello team in 5th place in qualifying. 6th was Pigeon in the Haas. 7th was Cuddy in the Racing Point. 8th was Mercedes of Adam R. 9th was Joe Pilkey, who was having his first race in the Haas as a reserve. Aldorf was rounded up the top 10 in the Williams. Unfortunately, there was only 14 that raced in this race, but that can happen from time to time. I don't believe there is a issue with that, so just coincidence with that one. But it was a rain Q3 actually. And it was one of those situations you had to get out quick on the soft tyres. So Mitzi capitalised the most in that situation. The only time we actually had rain. And I believe that's the first time we've had rain in any of the races, I believe, Ryan, if I'm correct in saying.
I don't know, I've not watched as many races as you. I know you had to religiously watch all the races, so I'm not seeing personally.
I think that's the first incident of rain, and it was very likely at the end of Q3 in F1.
I want to see more rain races, to be fair. I'm not a big fan of the rain personally, but it brings out the best in some drivers, and it always throws up a weird result.
It's a good equaliser, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, can be. Feel sorry for some pad users though, because some pad users do struggle, and obviously.
Oh, the pain! The pain of the pad users. Oh, the traction. So anyway, the race got underway for F1, and Kid Cudi though connected with, by the looks of it, when I looked at this back, looked like he had connection with Adam R in the Mercedes at turn 3 and spun. Didn't get any damage though, but spun to the back of the grid. Adam R though did get damage from it and pitted at the end of the lap. Also on that same lap, Pigeon Munch got Nat Dog for 5th. Mansell and Adolf joined Adam in the pits at the end of the first lap. Lap 5, the top 4, Mitzi, Easton, Corey and Lando were slowly pulling away from the rest of the field. They were kind of a DRS train with all 4 of them. until Lando passes Corey Marshall into the hairpin at the end of that lap with a pretty solid move on the outside. Lap 7 is when the strategies came into play and into the soft tyre run. Easton and Lando pitted for medium tyres at this point, and the following lap Midzi also pitted, but he went onto the hard tyres, obviously doing the alternate strategy to the rest of his rivals. Easton though did get the undercut on Midzi to get into the lead, or into the net lead at this point. Lap 11, a few laps later, Corey Marshall then pits from the mediums because he was the last of the leaders to pit, and he came out 5th behind Diggles, who had yet to pit on his hard tyres that he'd started on. Corey didn't let that hamper him too much because he got by Diggles on a few laps later at the turn 5 chicane with a nice move up on the inside. Lap 19, again, as I said, not much happened, to be honest, not really many highlights. Lap 19 though, Easton and Lando pitted for their second stop onto soft tyres. Easton came out 3rd and Lando came out 6th. And then once again, compared to the other races, they were trying to close down the guys that were on the longer tyres. Lap 20, at this point Midzi was on 11 lap hards and going to the end of course, leading the race. Corey was on 7 lap mediums, with Easton chasing him hard on the soft tyres, on fresh softs. Behind them was Pigeon Munch, Nat Dog, Joe Pilkey, Adolf, Hush and Diggles in the top 10. And then 2 more points of note. Lap 22, Easton passed Corey, managed to catch him up on, of course, the soft tyres, which were lethal at the end of the races. And he passed Corey Marshall at the turn 5 chicane. And lap 25, Lando also passed Corey at the turn 5 chicane to move into, where did he finish? In 3rd place. So obviously Corey tried to hang it out on those tyres, but eventually had to be passed by those two, Lando and Easton, on the softs. But obviously Easton wasn't able to catch the eventual winner, Midzi, who drove the perfect strategic race to end up in the race win in the Red Bull. So very similar to Mudsey, he's had 2 thirds and a first. So he's definitely providing a good stern challenge to our reigning champion Easton. But Easton did come home 2nd, which means Easton also has yet to step off the podium in his results. 3rd was Lando in the Williams, picking up a good result for them on the podium. 4th was Corey Marshall in the Alfa Romeo. And I know it's very early days, Ryan, but these 4 seem to be the early pace setters in F1. You got Midzi, Easton, Corey and Lando. Tough to say at this point which one of these 4 is going to come out on top. We've still got to wait, I'd say, till Monaco and Baku until we really get to see who could potentially take the crown off of Easton.
Yeah, very familiar names from last year as well. Obviously, I think they're all the top group from F1 last season as well, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see the battle continue and no one's giving up. And obviously, it's a new season. It's only 3 races deep, so they all want it. They all want to try and dethrone Easton. But obviously, Easton wants to make that as hard for them as possible.
It's easy to say that Easton hasn't lost anything, has he? He hasn't lost pace from last year. He's still up there with the rest of them. He does want another title.
I think that's the hardest part is getting the first, and then obviously defending it is even harder sometimes. But he's not really battering the line too much so far. He's doing it really well, and looking forward to seeing if he can continue.
Behind the top 4, Nat Dog finished 5th in the Ferrari, so good solid result for him, his best result so far. Also best result for Pigeon in 6th place in the Haas. 7th was, I believe, Joe Pilkey in the Haas, having his first race for RSF1, so good solid start for him. Diggles was 8th, picking up 4 points for the Haas team. Ninth was Adolf in the Williams, and 10th, picking up the last point, was Mansell in the Mercedes. Again, bit of a small lackluster race for F1, but I'm sure they're not all going to be like that. Of course, it's not going to bring down the excitement of the tier, and as I said, it's difficult to say who's going to come out on top at the end of it. Which brings us to the last race of the week, which was F4, which happened on last night. Your former tier, of course, Ryan, which still has a few drivers that you know very well in there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, don't really miss it that much, but I'm happy to have moved on from that tier. But yeah, there's often some very competitive races there, and obviously sometimes it gets a bit too competitive and incidents happen, which is why I wasn't happy there in the first place. But it seems to be a little bit better this year, and from what I've seen and heard. So nice that
did you get a bit too intimate with the drivers there in F4, basically?
I won't call them drivers, I call them a-holes, but
alright.
the ones I got involved with.
I shouldn't have dug any more, that was my fault.
Yep. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's a very nice tier to see improve, because I feel like it was one of the worst tiers last season, but I feel like they're improving now, so it's good to see.
Good to hear. But yeah, a very, very good race to watch, this one. All 20 drivers turned up. It was actually the only tier that had 20 drivers, I believe. Again, nothing, bad from the other tiers. It's just, stuff happens, etc. But yeah, very entertaining race to watch. The top 10 though was Toxic MW in the the Haas. Got the pole position. Cornish was second in the Racing Point, and third was Alco in the Racing Point, so a good start for the Pink Panther team. Scotsman in the Renault was in P4, with Vinny in the Red Bull 5th, Primus in Mercedes 6th, the early championship leader, Button, in the Ferrari was 7th, Unseen, who is still a reserve at this point, in 8th place, 9th was Old Mandy, and Caesar Wizard was 10th in the McLaren. The race got underway, and Toxic NW dropped to 4th at the end of the first lap, and of course we didn't know at this point why he had such a slow start, but obviously we did find out later on, and it was a shame for that. But obviously at this point a little bit surprised, but he did drop down to 4th place. Cornish took the lead in the Racing Point and started to gain a bit of a gap ahead of Scotsman, who had a pretty good start in his Renault, up into 2nd place. Unseen, Jesse Racer and Chrismic all pitted at the end of the first lap for damage, but apart from that, a pretty solid start from F4. Lap 2, Caesar Wizard had a hectic start, or hectic first third of the race for him, because he had contact with Budden on turn 5 and spun and went back to 10th place in this incident, and it ended up being not the first incident he would have in his first half of the race. A fortunate start for Rogue. Your Cocom, he pitted and retired at the end of lap 3, so another one of those that didn't particularly like Vietnam this week. Obviously you'll be swiftly moving on to China. That did bring out the virtual safety car, in which nothing really changed, to be honest, but so the rest carried on. We then saw a three-way tussle between Primus, Toxic MW and Vinny. Multiple passes between all three of them. That was a great thing to watch, but all very, very clean racing. Then we found out by somebody in the chat later on that Toxic MW, because there was a bit of a it was a slow start to the grid or something. We didn't restart, but it was slow to begin. But during that, Toxic actually had that setup glitch, so he was given the balanced setup. I don't know whether you've been hit with that before, Ryan, where you've had to use the balanced setup. It's not great at certain tracks, is it? And I don't think this was one of them.
I've not had it for a long time, and I'm thinking like 2016 was the last time I had it. So I'm surprised that it's starting to crop up a little bit again. I didn't know
Yeah.
about that happening, but you mentioning it now is just like, oh great, here we go again.
Mm. It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to kind of work around because it's not only is it like the aero, so you're struggling on the straight, it's the brake bias, isn't it?
You can adjust that on the fly though, the brake bias. So
Oh yeah.
that's not too bad. It's the diff as well. You can't do anything about the one of the diffs. I can't remember if it's on or off,
Yeah.
but there's one of them you can't touch, and obviously ride height's a bit wonky, and tire pressures are a bit all over the place and not ideal. So yeah, it's not ideal.
No. So yeah, Toxic MW was very much compromised by this, and but he was doing pretty well at this point to hold back as many people as he could. But he had Grady Vinny all over the back of him at this point. Caesar Wizard was recovering from his earlier spin and passed Button on the hairpin for 5th place, and this was at lap 5 at this point. But then he spun at the last corner. All by himself at this point, but drops down to 11th place. So, a very hectic start for Wizard in the early going. Vinny also did eventually get by Toxic MW at the hairpin on lap 6. Lap 7, Button and Toxic MW were battling for 6th place at this point at the hairpin, and both chopping and changing positions. Again, Toxic was really struggling on this setup glitch that he had. And he pitted for hard tyres at the end of the lap, trying to get to the end, kind of trying to get something from the evening. Lap 8, Scotsman, who at this point was battling with Cornish for the race lead, pitted for hard tyres, obviously in his usual first stop or one-stop strategy. Primus and Vinny, though, went for the medium tyres, obviously going for the two-stop. Caesar's hectic race continued as he had another spin on turn 4 after he gained a few positions, and again he dropped back down to 13th place. At the end of that lap, Cornish then reacted to Scotsman's pit stop and pitted for hard tyres himself, but weirdly enough came out 5 seconds behind Scotsman, even though Scotsman was 2 seconds behind. So in total lost about 7-8 seconds in the pit stop. I still don't know why that is, but I would assume he got damage, because that's, you don't use that amount even on an undercut in that lap, so I can only assume he did have damage at that point. But in any case, Scotsman got the lead and seemed to never look back, because kept extending the lead from then on in. Alco Saints, who was also with the leaders, pitted for hard tyres similar to his teammate. So it meant that on lap 11, when the first stops had occurred, Scotsman was leading the head of Cornish. Unseen was yet to pit. He was up into 3rd with Alco in 4th. Primus was 5th. Jesse Racer was yet to pit, was in 6th. Vinny was in 7th, 48th, Button 9th, and Fishdix in 10th place. Unseen pitted a couple of laps later. Jesse also retired at that lap as well, and unfortunately also retired from the race. As well. Who else was that? Somebody in the 10th place as well, but I can't read my writing. Lap 15, XR Cornish pits again. This time he definitely had damage at this point, because the streamer got this up. Had broken. So yeah, apparently Cornish did have damage the first time he pitted. He just said in the chat, so thank you, Cornish. I didn't realise you did the first time, so that's why the time loss. Unfortunately, he did pit again on lap 15, and that gave Scotsman a 14-second lead, which Scots was able to cruise to the end, to be honest, from then on. Lap 16, Primus gets Alco for 2nd place at the hairpin. Obviously, Primus on that 2-stop was obviously trying to make that work against all the others on the hard tyres around him. Lap 22, a few laps later on, and this was kind of the running order. Scotsman was leading, again 14 seconds ahead of Alco in 2nd. Cornish had recovered pretty nicely up into 3rd place, ahead of 40 in 4th. Unseen was 5th, ahead of Button, Vinny, Primus, and Caesar Wizard, who, despite everything, was still got himself into the top 10. Unseen then passes 40 for 4th at the hairpin. And then Primus, who was trying to pass 40 on that same lap, unfortunately connects with him on the final sector. Goes back to 9th place. 40 then pitted late on to try and get some fresh tyres and trying to get back. Primus then battled with Button in his recovery, but managed to pass him at the hairpin as well. And Wizard got unseen on the last lap, which meant the final results, Scotsman took his first win of the season, now showing what I thought he was going to be capable of doing in F4. Definitely settled in quite nicely and had a surprising, he said, win, but definitely a very good win for him. Second though was Cornish, picks up his first podium of the season. Yeah, very unfortunate not to win that race, but still got a very, very good result in second. Third was Alco Saint, so Racing Point, who had begun the week in F4 with no points, ended up with, one of my maths, 33? 18 and 15? Yeah, 33 points, so good haul for them, second and third. Fourth was Vinny in Red Bull. Fifth was Caesar Wizard. So despite, like, I think was it, in the end, 2 free spins in the early going, recovered very, very nicely for Caesar and the McLarens, ended up in 5th place. 6th was, again, a reserve. 7th was Primus. Oh, that must have been unseen in 6th place. 7th was Primus and the Mercedes. 8th was Button. Again, early championship leader, and I don't think he retains the lead, but he's still up there, of course, in 8th. And he got 8th place in that race. 9th for 40, and 10th for Fish Sticks. And there you have it. That ended the week in Vietnam.
Bring on China.
Bring on China. Yes. Yeah. Definitely a different type of racing we're going to see in China, I believe. Ryan, to be honest.
I hope so. I don't want another snooze fest.
No, it was definitely. There's going to be a lot more overtaking. I think a lot of these races were tactical based, weren't they? A lot of strategic battles going on.
Isn't that also a thing at China though? Like, you can do a more aggressive 2-stop than like a conservative 2-stop or something. Like, I can't remember what it is, but I know there's strategies where people will test different things and try and stretch out stints. Like, you'll always get that in most races, but I think China's probably one of the more beneficial because of obviously the high tyre wear. So if you can look after your tyres, you can gain a lot of positions.
I definitely think you're going to see a lot more brave overtakes at this track as well. Outside of turn 1, maybe that long right hander, never ending, it seems. A lot of stuff at turn 5, especially on the first lap. You do tend to see, obviously we don't have enough time for the hot lap, we're just going to briefly talk about China to end things. But we do tend to see a few happenings in turn 1 at this track, isn't it, Ryan? Because it's a kind of a weird corner to go into, doesn't it? Because it's very bumpy, and as I said, it's never ending, and it's also the way the corner goes, like, you naturally understeer wide, don't you? So you may see a few people thinking, oh, I can duck on the inside of the apex.
Yeah, you
sometimes work, doesn't always.
It's normally the more inexperienced drivers or drivers that try to be one-lap heroes, as I don't know who it was who said it actually the other day. But yeah, normally the better drivers normally run a little bit wide and just let anyone who's going to make an optimistic move just get the move done, because it's so easy just to tap someone and lose your race, like lose both your races really around there, because obviously side pod glitches in Formula 1 games are just ridiculous sometimes. So you probably see some people move out the way conceded position just to get it back later on, because DRS will be so strong around there. So it'll be very interesting, I think.
Yep. Rain, as you mentioned, it's very susceptible to rain as China, so we could see our first wet race of the season in any tier. Can you imagine if actually can you imagine if every tier has a wet race? Every single one.
I'd hate it. I'd probably just be like, nope, I'm going back on FIFA.
Be fun to watch though.
It would be fun to watch, just not very fun to drive. But
Of course.
the problem is with rain though, with a track like China. China has potential to be a fantastic, thrilling race. Rain can end that. Rain can make a race really dull because people are just being so safe on their tyres. Because if you're aggressive on your tyres around China, you can just absolutely shred them. Whereas if you're more conservative and be careful with the power and traction, you can make one less stop if you're just more careful.
What else? Last corner as well. Track limits.
Track limits.
You don't want to cut. You don't want to cut or extend that last corner because it doesn't validate your next one, doesn't it? And that can be very annoying.
Normally, when
so don't be too greedy.
Normally, around most tracks on the game, the more dangerous corners to invalidate are like halfway around the track or at the start of a lap or somewhere around that sort of area. And then obviously you can just pit straight in, come back out on a fresh set of tyres. With China, you have to go round the entire track knowing that you can't set a lap, so it's more painful.
And it's one of those as well, isn't it? Because to have a good lap, you need to go through there quick and get it nailed. But that runs the risk of cutting, and as I said, it validates the lap you're going to go on. And if you're one of those people that you've left it right to the last minute in Q3, and then you do that, it's all ruined. And then you're in 10th, and then you're in the trouble zone of the first lap of the first time, aren't you?
Definitely, yeah. It'd be interesting to see what people do. I don't think we'll see as many people leave it as late as possible. Like, you probably see people leaving enough time for 2 runs in Q3, but I don't know. It could be interesting. People end up proving me wrong, as they always do. So, yeah, I'll look forward to seeing that.
You know, the thing I'm looking forward to?
That
camera shot in the first lap you get sometimes, where you see the whole grid coming around that long right hand onto the back straight, and you get the camera from really far back and you can see the entire grid go round.
I don't think I've seen that one. I'll keep an eye out for that one.
Needs to be first lap. You don't always get it, but if you're on like the leader and you're on broadcast camera, you then get a shot where you can see the entire grid.
I'll keep an eye out on that one. I'll bear that in mind.
Again, it sometimes happens. It just depends on it. So yeah, that should be a fun week. Of course, we wish everybody good luck in their races. Of course, I won't be racing, so I will be a very keen spectator in all the tiers. Of course, all kicks off at F2 on the Sunday. Obviously, can Muddy Biscuit continue his strong results? Of course, interesting to see how VRC Dan gets on in his first race for F2.
Be interesting to see how Scotsman gets on, see if he can win another race. To be fair, that'd be very interesting in F4.
Yeah, of course. Of course, that's F5 on the Tuesday.
Or Scotsman 4.
Tuesday. Again, I get confused because Scotsman I thought was still in... No, he's F4 now. He's not F5 anymore.
And it's not Tuesday either, it's on Thursday.
Jesus Christ. Wow. Wow. You can tell my brain's just like melted at this point. Gone through loads of words and numbers at the end of it. It's just like, I want to go home. I am home. I just want to sleep. Yes. So anyway, all kicks off on the Sunday. Of course, Primus Gaming and Diggles are due to be in the comms box on Sunday. Monday is, of course, F3. Myself and Vettel are, again, planned. We love plans. We love it when they go wrong as well. But it should be myself and Vettel on the Monday. Of course, Craig off having his birthday on that day. So, of course, wish him happy birthday when it comes to that day. Tuesday, we'll see Monster Skyline and Rogue back in the box once again for F5.
Bottling commentary.
Tuesday went.
Bottling commentary.
Yeah. Wednesday is F1, and that should be Blazer Guns and Hippo. Blazer Guns and Hippo, of course. And then Thursday, it all finishes off. Toxic CW should be back in the comms box this time, joined with Sync Saiju to wrap things up on Thursday for F4 around China. And of course, we'll be back here once again next week on Friday to recap them all. So make sure you watch all of that. Of course, every race day is at the 8 o'clock. But for now, until then, have a very good weekend and take care of yourselves. And see you next time.